Alright, my babies, we're back. Today's video is, I guess, exciting. Can you read? Ah, I don't know who's familiar with One Piece, but this man, over the past 25 years, because I think One Piece first was published as a manga in early 1992, and so over 25 more, 30 years, 92, 94 maybe, so about 30 fucking years ago, one guy started writing a story. One guy started writing a story, and the idea of the story is there's a treasure that he has worked his entire life to get, and basically everyone is kind of like going to get it. And that started basically an era of people just kind of like chasing their dream. And that's the thing. I think 28 years ago, yeah, July 1997, my bad. 28 years ago, that was in July 2025, July 22nd, basically, in 1997. And so the idea, the entire story is basically just the dream of finding One Piece. And today's episode is the One Piece truly exists. Naturally, I'm not discussing the anime. I'm discussing the theme. That one way or another, every one of us. And let's talk about it from a. Well, I'll ask you the question. If you were given a choice to not wake up tomorrow, would you go for it? I always ask that question. Because it's funny. It's like if given the choice, it's the trick here. Because if you're given the choice, everyone chooses to wake up, right? I'm not telling you you're gonna die. I'm not telling you you're gonna face anything. I'm just saying you're not gonna wake up tomorrow. So ultimately, what are you waking up for? And throughout our lives, what happens is basically the more I do these videos, the more there's kind of like a pattern of how I came to be, of how I came to be right now, like the conversation that's happening between me and you. And my favorite thing, which I kind of talked about, I think two, three, four videos ago, is the layering that we add to ourselves in order to respond to the conditioning of our environment. Our environment being our house, our society, our ambitions, the games we play, all of them kind of like add certain like layers and lenses in which we see the world. And I don't, even if you talk to people that are doing yoga, you're going to see that they're looking at the world through the lens of yoga being the spiritual activity that they're doing. And it's one of the funniest things that basically over the past 3 years kind of started coming to me is the people that have felt some form of awakening, as in like a realization of themselves, instead of realizing that it happened because they kind of like let go of something, the first thing they do is they hold on to it. And ultimately it becomes their new ego. It shapes their new ego. My God. Let's like say it that way. And so a very effective thing is the one thing that happens is the mind does its thing, the brain does its thing, the mind does its thing because the brain is the mechanism. And what it does is it kind of like realizes, oh, this feels good, so let's hold on to it. And that becomes a part of your day-to-day existence. But going back to the original question, what are you waking up for? I'm asking you, you're given the option not to wake up, but you say no, you want to wake up. So what are you waking up for? And hidden behind all these layers is what I basically reflect on as the One Piece, my One Piece. They're very much inspired by like the series. I've been reading it since 2006, man. Reading it since 2006. I haven't been watching it since then. I have been watching it since then as well, but I have been reading the whole thing, and I've been completely like just following up on everything basically concerning it. And that and like over a couple of hundred animes and mangas. At one point, it kind of feels ridiculous, but it's beautiful because every one of them kind of like elaborates on something. There's a core thing around that that manga, and that's the philosophy behind why it kind of like becomes something, right? And it's in with everything you do. If there's no philosophy behind it, there's nothing for people to relate to. And it doesn't matter if it's something they hate, because like I've seen a lot of people that like hate some stuff but still fully read it or fully watch it or fully do something regarding it. Because like we're very much complex in our nature. But this declaration that it truly exists means the small thing that's itching in your brain, the voice that's kind of been like muddled down. It doesn't matter how deep it is. I see depth as the layers because if you talk to a guy that's kind of like satisfied with his life, whether he's married with children, completely content with how his job is and everything, you realize that everything about him is very much on the top of his head. It rose to the surface. There's no depth anymore. It's not that there wasn't depth or the thing that he is basically sees are not deep. But I discuss consciousness, especially when it comes to our mind, as more of we're not diving into a lake, more like we're skimming the water that blocks us seeing all the way through, that skews our vision. Because like light refracts on water, not some of it gets reflected, but most of it gets refracted. And I also discussed it in a video where basically there's like the segment. But whatever it is that's in our head, whether it's a dream, whether it's a vision of ourselves, it truly exists. On some timeline or another, it exists. And funny enough, there are many ways where your day can go. And each one opens a different timeline where different things happen. And we could try to understand it or not, but as you think about it, there's nothing set in a behavioral standpoint when it comes to everything around you because it's always changing. But that change is very much either influencing you or you're influencing it. So might as well, since you're waking up the next day, like considering what you're waking up to, why can't it be the thing that you kind of like want to pursue and want to approach, get close to, make a part of your reality? Granted, every once in a while, you're probably going to have to play other people's games in order to get to it. And sometimes getting to it is another person's game. But when the time comes, you probably would have made that game your own. And then you kind of like you would be looking at yourself. I guess as the adventurer who kind of like A part of his adventure is to get to a point where he could adventure comfortably. Because you're adventuring in order to reach your dream. But then when you reach your dream, that's where that's what the adventure you've been adventuring for starts. And I don't know, it's just I guess a relationship between like you discovering what you want versus you discovering it after you discovering it, you discovering yourself after you got it, and then you discovering what it is. And maybe that's the states of consciousness, the two of them that basically happen when you're awake or when you're aware, I guess. Because like when you're playing, remember you're playing the game with life. You're not playing the game of life. So at first you have to figure out the game, and then you kind of like play it. What is this game that you're playing with life? It all depends on your intention and the vision that you want. And once that is established, then you already know the game that you're gonna be playing. And I guess that happens when you reach the One Piece. Because ultimately, when you reach the One Piece, then you're able to discover what your dream was all about, why you chose it, and where it's coming from. But to get to that point, you kind of have to like discover it and then discover yourself in it. Why the fuck not? It's one of those videos, man. Love you.